right? So if we had an agenda, and the agenda could be okay, because you want to have sort of maybe a list of things to cover, but there wouldn't necessarily be anything hidden, because now it would be able to come out. There's no reason to sort of hide yourself. And that's the morbid entity. I write a lot about morb theory. My invention, MORB, the modus operandi of rational behavior. So morb, MORB, .masstrance.com. Yes, the mass trance of society, hypnosis. MORB.masstrance.com. To get out of that forged identity, which is this internal dialogue, now we kind of awaken to it. We're more attuned to the flight we take every day, which is our TWA, thoughts, words, and actions. And I want to explain all this because the dynamic filters in through what I call the mess, which is sort of the grand metasphere, sort of the cosmic environment we're in, which is being aware of matters of concern, the energy, dynamic, space, and time. And if you ask any physicist, they'll say that's all there is, matter, energy, space, and time. So how do we psychically engage in this realm so that we become a little bit more attuned to our own TWA, our thought processes, the quality of the words we're using, the way that we're actualizing ourselves and showing up? So I have to engage with this part because it's make me thinking, talking out loud, that, egoism is this projection, and having some awareness of TWA, the thoughts, words, and actions, the way that I am presenting myself, is a measure of ultra being present, how attuned I am. And without story, and without sort of this agenda weighing on my mind, and you could say, well, we all have an agenda. Yeah, well, I just want to be perfectly present, which would be empty or devoid of any sort of anything that other than would be me paying attention to you and just appreciating the moment, if nothing else, lovingly being present, right? That's all that's being requested, all that's required to initiate a loving conversation, right? To be fully present, really to kind of be empty as you can, because if you're full of it, it's like, well, it's not a good place to start. And I've learned to sort of let that go. And, I probably was more full of it than most people. And many of my past friends would have said, yeah, that is true. So we've matured, hopefully in some way, that we could now have this openness. And we could call it, 0-point energy, or sort of this point of entry that is mutually engaged, and everything is out in the open, right? So it's an inside job to begin with, but it can facilitate this metasphere, again, calling this sort of zeitgeist experience. Zeitgeist means the spirit of the time, but this has become a memorable thing because you're living it, and people around you feel it as you engage with them. In this dynamic and in its own way, they're uplifted. And this is the quality, or at least the potential result, of having a great community conversation or a loving conversation, is to be able to engage people on this level where they feel that they've been heard, respected, and really whatever dimension, if there was something that needed to be resolved or addressed, it does. And yet it does so dynamically that it's fulfilled, which means that, wow, person's satisfied, that this is really something worth, if there was anything that needed to be resolved, in that dynamic of the experience. And sometimes it's within a moment. Just because the person who's engaging on this level enters the room or participates in the conversation, boom, it happens. And now it's a whole different dynamic, or it's a paradigm shift. So what I'm looking for is a transformation, because I think we need to have this globally, right, worldwide, at least in our society, to where we can begin to position things in a way that are more inclusive, respectful, and come from this dynamic of being loving, because no matter what your tradition or teaching, religion or path or, spiritual philosophy could be, you think that that would be an important element, that we'd be a bit more aware of our considerations. And this is what we're carrying with us, through our TWA, our thoughts, words, and actions, right? This is this dynamic of the packaging here. So if we can have this element, it opens up the door quite a bit, right? You can have sort of a flight path, sort of a light at the end of the tunnel, and go, okay, this is the way. And the input is appreciated in case we are going the wrong way. Well, we can adjust, because it all matters. And having your say, your input, it matters. And that energy dynamic and the spatial consideration and the quality of time we have together, it all figures into this dynamic. So, as much as we can, be present and practice something that really becomes more internalized. It's not me thinking all the time, me having to say this all the time, and me sort of acting in a certain way that might be more perfunctory. It's just a natural way, a natural state of ultra being present. And it is a practice, though, because it does qualify refinement in the way that we may be showing up and seen by other people, and not that we always have to be sort of acting out for others, and yet that we want to have sort of a quality presence that as you are with people, to me it's like the loving conversation occurs naturally, and yet, not everybody brings this to the table. So why not have you be an emissary, someone who's steady and a representative of this work in the way that we all practice it and we refine it, and this becomes perpetually a self-liberation movement, helping others get out of their own stories by you being sort of attuned to what that quality in that relationship and that dynamic is. And this is where you come from. This is where others would describe it, a loving conversation is coming from your heart and being totally open, and it's felt. And in this regard, the dynamic really, becomes something, it's almost beyond words, right? Because it's something that is in the moment. And you create this, what I kind of describe as, and for some people might be really special, a connection. And it's really forged by your ability to sort of be attuned. So we'll talk about this more, what the qualities of attunement is. Of course, it is a practice of being an ultra being, whatever this is for you, present. It's an exercise to where you are an excellent example of enlightenment as you know it to be, as you can practice it and exercise it. It comes down to being present. Thank you.